Hello, this is Mike from Mike's Mac Tips. Today's tip of the day is going to be how to get started with Trimble's super powerful online SketchUp for Schools. Once you log in, you need to log in with your school email and make sure your school district has SketchUp for Schools verified so you can have all the features. There is a SketchUp online SketchUp Make app that is not as powerful as the SketchUp for Schools, so I highly recommend making sure your school is able to get the full features of SketchUp for Schools. First thing we're going to do is we're going to pick a template. I'm going to go with architectural, feet and inches, and create new. Once you open it up, you're met by a green and blue screen with access lines and a scale model. This year's scale model is Trimble's SketchUp Project Manager for Spectrum project, Casey Grothus. Each year they pick a different model to be the scale model. This is just here so you can have size reference for whatever model you're working on. SketchUp has toolbars on both sides. These will often change, but the tools stay the same. If you want to see a full selection of tools, you can click on the three-dot menu at the bottom and it shows you all the possibilities. If there's something you'd like to include, you can drag it into the toolbar and add that tool to the side. On the right-hand side, these are search and definition tools. So we have entity info, an outliner, we have an instructor. So whatever tool you click on, you'll have a quick, so here's the line tool. It has a quick definition of how this tool works and how it's used. So as you go through, you can select different tools and the instructor will give you a quick tutorial on how to use each of those tools. Down from there, this is the 3D warehouse. This gives you access to all models throughout SketchUp's 3D world where people can load their own models. So this is a shared community where if you have something that you want to build from, you can check out the 3D warehouse and see what other people have made. We also have our components. So right now the only component in the model is Casey Grothus. But when you start building components, you'll be able to see it there. Materials, this will give you color options. You'll also have options for adding different textures, glass, roofing, siding, stone, and whatnot. You'll also have access to the 3D warehouse for those materials. Next up is the styles button. This isn't something that you'll be using right off, so we'll get into those features later on. We have our tags button, so if you want to make a tag of something, you can add that tag in and call this Casey, and now you'll be able to toggle on and off whether you want to see Casey or not. Shadows can be set in for time zones as well as time of day. You also can set scenes with camera angles, standard views, and then you can see all of your scenes. You'll be able to add them using the plus symbol to add the scene as you go. And then you have all of your view options where you can see hidden geometry, section planes, cuts, access guides. This will become more valuable to you as you get going. Next up, you have soften and smooth edges. Good way to complete your model to make it look really good. Then you have model info that shows you all of the data statistics of your model. And finally, nice little addition in the most recent versions, it has a solid inspector. So if you're using SketchUp for Schools to 3D print, it is now possible to run an inspection and make sure your model is solid. So let's get started. First off, when I'm just modeling in SketchUp, I will select the scale model and then I'll just hit delete so that way I don't have to have anything visually distracting from me. I'm going to start with the line tool and I'm going to just start drawing things off and make a funky shape. And you'll see that this shape is open and it looks like it's on one plane. If we orbit, which is this button right here, or O on the keyboard, we'll find that that shape was actually made in 3 dimensions, nowhere near the same plane. I often tell beginners to not use the line tool when you're trying to draw something on the same plane because it becomes a little more complicated. I'm going to then choose the select tool. The easiest way to get to the select tool is hitting the space bar or clicking the arrow. I'm going to click and drag to delete everything I did. And that reminds me, SketchUp is a click and hold or click and release button. So if I take the line tool, I click once and I let go, I can then drag this line in any direction. You don't need to hold down while you're dragging. So if I click and drag, you can do that, but it makes for awkward modeling where all you need to do is click once, release, and then drag to where you want. And I'm just Command-Zing on a Mac. You can do any undo depending on what computer software you're using. So the next thing we're going to do is a rectangle tool. Next one down. Rectangle tool keeps you on axis lines. I'm going to start at the origin point and I'm going to draw it out. You'll notice that every time you have a perfect square, it'll add a blue dotted line. If it's not a perfect square, you won't see that. So we'll throw in a square. And remember, I clicked once, released, and now I'm dragging out. And then to make the square, I'm going to click again. And you'll notice because this is on the same plane, it filled in the plane. Now, this is the tool that made SketchUp famous. It's what separated itself from the other CAD software back in the early 2000s. It is the push-pull tool. We're going to click on the push-pull tool. We're going to see that it won't let us select anything except for this face. And it gets a bunch of blue dots. I'll zoom in so you can see those blue dots. I'm going to click once on the face and release, and then I'm going to drag up. I could also drag down. So this allows you to go in either direction. When I get the size I want, I'm going to click again. Now I'm going to go back to the line tool. I'm going to select the line, and what you'll notice within SketchUp is there's lots of inferences. When you're on an endpoint, it will give you a green circle. When you're on an edge, it will give you a red square. When you find a midpoint, it will give you a blue or cyan circle. And you'll notice as you go around, you got endpoint, on edge, midpoint, endpoint. So I'm going to just grab a midpoint, click once, release, and then start drawing over. And you'll notice that if I end up perfectly on the green axis, my line will turn green. If you want to stay on that green axis, you can hold shift and you'll notice it makes the green line darker, and then wherever I move my pencil, it stays on that green axis. And then if I want to connect it to the other side, I can touch anywhere along this line and it will put it exactly there. You can do it right from midpoint to midpoint or touch anywhere on the line. So I'm going to click to end it, and that gives me my line. I'm going to go back to the orbit tool, which is O, so you can see that I now have a square. And sometimes in SketchUp, it can look like things aren't a perfect square based on your perspective. You can also go to the glasses and give you view. And I want to look at one angle. I can look at the top, east elevation, north elevation, west elevation, bottom, or isometric. So I'm going to go with isometric, hide this menu bar. I'm going to grab the move tool now. And the move tool, you can select endpoints, stretch it out. You can grab lines, move them around. And for this one, I want to grab this line I'll just grab it. You can grab it on the midpoint, but it really doesn't matter where you grab it, just as long as you're on edge. You're going to click once and then drag, and now we can make a roof. And you'll notice this roof kind of goes up in whatever direction you go. If I want this roof to go perfectly up, I can hit the up arrow key and you'll watch this snap into the blue axis. And then I can raise and lower wherever I want. So I'm going to raise this up. We're not doing anything to scale right now. We're just learning the tools. I'm going to go back, hit the orbit O key, scroll around. And now we're going to grab the rectangle tool one more time. And I'm going to go on edge. I'm not going to do midpoint. I'm just going to approximate. We're not doing any measurements. We'll get to measurements later on. I'm going to click once, release, and then make whatever size door you'd like. From here, if we want to make this an arch, there are options that we have. And we're going to go with the arc tool. 2-point arc. I'm going to click on the 2-point arc. This allows us to click once on one endpoint, again on the second endpoint, and then we can drag in any direction. If we want this to be an overhang, if you hit a right arrow key, it stays on the green, and we could click and we could make this an overhang. If we want to make it an arch, we'll click on each endpoint, and then we'll drag up, make an arch. From here, one thing you can do to make sure your surfaces are all one is you can use the eraser tool, which is the top white, blue, white, or E on the keyboard. And we're going to call this healing the surface. We're going to erase this line, which makes this, and I'll show you before. So if I select the top and select the bottom, these are separate surfaces. Where if I use the eraser tool and delete the line and then select this surface, this is one. And then I'm going to grab the push-pull that we've already used. And remember, you can select any object to push-pull. So if I select here and push-pull, it'll push-pull just that point. If I select here, it'll push-pull just that point. But I want to take this arched door and just push it in a little bit. From here, you'll notice that it's starting to look more like something. We're going to just take this eraser tool and erase this bottom line and open up our house. From here, let's go to the 3D warehouse and let's grab a dog. And you'll notice when you go to the 3D warehouse, you'll have varying sizes. This first one's 4.5 megabytes, and then you got one that's 655 kilobytes. You want to keep your size of your model workable, so you don't want to have too big of an item pulling into it or it'll slow your model down. So I'm going to just grab this. This one looks good. 655 kilobytes. I'm going to download it. It'll download the model, and you'll notice it's on the side. I'm going to just click so I can then X out of this box, and then using the move tool we can move this dog to our house. You'll notice the dog's too big right now. It's also because it's a very small size. This is just a photo basically of a dog. So we're like, we don't want just a photo, we want a 3D dog. So we're going to delete this one. We're going to go back to the 3D warehouse and we're going to say, okay, 655 kilobytes, probably too small of a dog. I'm a big fan of retrievers. We got a 30 megabyte retriever here. We're going to import this model into our model. It takes a little longer to download the bigger the model it is. Once the model is downloaded, it will enter into your model and you'll be able to move it around and put it where you need to. So now that the model is finished importing, you'll notice that it gives you the move tool. I'm going to click to stop it so I can X out of this box. Then I'm going to keep the move tool and I'm going to drag it to our doghouse. And now we've got, and if you use the select tool, you can click off so you don't see the blue lines. And you'll notice this is maybe not the best model of a dog, and if you want to get in and you want to make the model a little cleaner, you can zoom in and you can get inside of these and delete some of the pieces from it to make it a little smoother. But for now, we're just going to stick with this model. So I'm going to click outside of the model, and we've got our dog. If your dog comes in wrong, you can use this rotate tool. And then once you select the model, I find it really easy if you hit one of the arrow keys. So if I hit the up arrow key, it puts me on the blue axis, and then I can move the dog on that axis. If you want to have the dog up or down, you can use the red axis and you can spin it. You can use the green axis and spin it the other way. So you can use those rotate tools in whatever way works best for you. So this guy is in a pretty good shape. We're going to leave him there. And then we're just going to do a little bit of finish work. We're going to grab the paint bucket tool. When you click on the paint bucket tool, it opens up all of your options. So we're going to start with brick and cladding here, and we're just going to grab some bricks, and we're going to make this a brick house for the dog. And every time I rotate, I have to re-click on the paint bucket. And then on the top, we're going to then go down and find some roofing. We'll take some shingles. And we've got a nice, simple doghouse. Now for fun, we will grab the circle tool, which you'll notice the circle tool is not one of the options. So I'm going to click on the 3-button menu. Click the circle tool. We'll give this dog a water dish. I'm going to click once and then drag, and you can drag it as far as you want. We'll make it about that big. Then I'm going to use the push-pull tool. And now a cool tool that can hollow things out, I'm going to use the offset tool. And we're going to zoom in using a scroll or 2-finger zoom. I'm going to click on the edge, and then I can offset this circle. So I'm going to pick a size I want, click again, then go back to the push-pull, and I can turn this bowl into a bowl versus just a cylinder. From here, we'll go back to the paint bucket and do some texturing. We'll start with, let's get some water in there. So we'll click on water. We'll throw some water in the bowl, and then we want, maybe this will be a metal bowl, so we'll grab a metal texture. And there you have it. You got a nice dog in a doghouse with a metal bowl. And now that you've completed your first model ever in SketchUp for Schools, we need to make sure we don't lose this. So if you notice in the top right hand corner, this is something that I would prefer that you did right off the bat so you don't lose your models. But when you click save, it will ask you if you want to purge items. This is always smart to do. So yes, purge all. Then you're going to go into your drive. It'll load your Google Drive. I'm going to enter Doghouse. Click save here, and it'll save it into my drive. And you notice the saving is gray. Okay, and sometimes it takes a little bit more time when you first save it. But then if I were to draw anything else on this model, you'll notice that gray saved button. As soon as I do anything, it turns to a blue save button. You click that save button, it says saving. Once that's done, you'll see that the saving turns into saved. And now if you X out of this, you'll be able to open it up from your Google Drive. That is getting started with SketchUp for Schools. We will have many updates as we go. I hope you enjoy 3D CAD software of SketchUp for Schools. It's super powerful. It takes a little bit getting used to, but once you're getting used to it, you'll be able to make pretty much anything your heart desires. Good luck and happy sketching.